This is another section from Knows You by No Other Name. Stacy stared at the small design of the fabric on the ceiling of his car and listened for the tailing squeak of the patrol car's door parked across the street. He was lying on the front seat with his head propped against the passenger's side armrest. The pistol was held against his heart on his chest with both hands. His shirt had dissolved into paste long ago. The vinyl of the seat was sticky and hot. His neck had hardened into wood. Despite the mental rehearsals, his fingers were still trembling. He would move slowly. The door would creak when opened. He had heard it twice now and could recognize it again without seeing the car. Stacy would rise with the gun out before him, taking careful aim at his brother's head that would be directly in front of him at the steering wheel of the patrol car. Stacy would squeeze the trigger, like going to the refrigerator for a slice of cheese. And why was he so nervous? He was well aware of his brother's capability. Al had been seriously wounded in a shootout in Gary and received a commendation for heroism. He did wish that Al didn't resemble him so much. He was afraid that he couldn't do it if he had to look him in the eye. Squeezing the trigger would be like shooting himself. He didn't know for certain if Al had killed anyone in the line of duty. Most police departments made damn sure that wasn't written down anywhere. Stacy was sure he could do it, but he'd never been tested. A few times in insurance investigations, he had butted heads with someone trying to pull a fast one. That probably wasn't the same thing, though. He'd gotten training in the Army. If they hadn't screwed him out of going into Army intelligence, he would be definitely ready now. Hell, he was ready now. He could do it. Why didn't he come out? He was sweating again. He tried to make his hands stop shaking. It was the waiting that got to you. Was that the squeak? He held his breath, trying to be sure. That had to be it. He couldn't wait. He slowly sat up, just like he had imagined doing. The gun was jerking violently. He looked. Al wasn't there. Where was he? Al's eyes were looking at him in the mirror. He was behind him. Stacy dropped back to the seat, panic-stricken. Damn him. How'd he get there? What could he do now? He was a sitting duck. Al would just walk up to the car and blow him away. Then a car started somewhere. Across the street. Couldn't have been his own reflection in the rearview mirror he'd seen. He couldn't have been such a shitless fool to scare himself like that. Al had to be fucking with him. God damn him. Stacy came up again. Now the pistol was ready. Where was the motherfucker? Al's patrol car was already turning the corner at the end of the block. Stacy scrambled to get behind the wheel and fumbled with his keys. He was getting away. Stacy almost lost him at first. He thought of going on to the restaurant where Al always ate, but he made a couple of good guesses and ended up a comfortable distance behind him. It wouldn't have worked at the diner anyway. He'd have to wait for him outside. There would be too many people coming and going. Someone would remember seeing him sitting in the car. Now it was just as well. Al wasn't heading in that direction. Stacy wasn't sure if he was being fucked with or Al was going someplace special. He really wanted to believe Al had popped up behind him and then sped away while he was cringing in the front seat. But wasn't sure his brother was smart enough to pull a stunt like that. Stacy had planned it carefully. Al would have to have eyes in the back of his head to spot him. Unless May had called him. That's where he was going. Made sense now. He was being set up. Al turned off on a small two-lane highway that led off to the rolling hills west of town. When he reached the turn, Stacy followed reluctantly, certain that this would take him to a secluded spot where they'd be waiting. If he hadn't already been made the ass, he'd quit now. Damn them. Let them give it their best shot. The road ran down into a valley and curved behind a grove of trees. All the rest was cornfields and fences. The corn had been harvested recently. The land lay open with only crumpled stalks as a reminder of the roads. The air was alive with crows, circling and dipping over the remains. Beyond the trees, a small country chapel shone in the sunlight, its white walls and steeple radiant against the dusty green grove. A handful of crows appeared to be circling above it like buzzards. This was it. He drove down the hill as if in slow motion. The gravel crunched beneath his tires. Taking the slow curve, he found that the crows over the church had been an illusion. They were in the corn with the others. He pulled off the shoulder just before reaching the last clump of trees between him and the chapel. He wasn't sure why he knew this was his place. blind curve, the easy landmark, the seclusion of the spot. There weren't any farmhouses in view. Made it perfect for someone to think of quickly and mention quickly in a phone conversation. She would have understood immediately where he meant. Then why not here, in the trees before the turn? His attention would be on the white building. It would be a chance to catch him off guard. Stacy knew better. Al didn't have his experience. And besides, it probably suited them better to be hiding behind the freshly painted clapboard corner of the building. Perhaps they had even talked about getting married inside someday afterward. He put the car in park and got out, leaving the engine running. There wasn't any sign of movement. The dust he had stirred up behind him in the gravel road was beginning to settle again. He checked his pistol. He didn't want any more stupid mistakes. Safety was off. He slipped it into his pocket and hopped the drainage ditch. It would cut across through the grove of maples. Perhaps he'd find them kissing. As he got closer, he realized something was wrong. Glimpses through the thick foliage revealed tight, bright colors and flashes of chrome. What had he stumbled upon? There were people on the steps. Cars were parked in the gravel lot next to the south wall of the church. He crouched down and made a hole through the top of the bush. It was a church meeting. Al was crossing the lot, headed for a group at the front entrance. May wasn't to be seen. When his brother reached the others, there were handshakes and pats on the back. "God damn you," Stacy muttered. What could he do here? He was too far away to get a clear shot, and he might hit some pilgrim by accident. These things went on all night. Al couldn't have led him here on purpose. This was all too crazy. Stacy remained where he was until everybody started filing inside. He finally stood up, his knees stiff, and turned to go, feeling more and more foolish. The singing from inside followed him back through the wood.